Oh, right, it is 7 o'clock, so let's get cracking. Hello, thank you everyone for joining me. So this webinar is entitled Evolutionary Intuition, and all will become clear as to why it has such a grandiose title. You know, Evolutionary Intuition. Sounds like it almost ought to be a Hollywood movie. It's a little extreme, isn't it? But you will see what I mean. So I want to just kind of kick off, and I want to just say, just bear with me, because I'm going to say some things that you might find to be a little bit challenging or a little bit controversial, but by the time I've finished, I think that you'll make good sense of it and it will make sense to you. Okay, so do bear with me. I describe myself really as being a human dynamics journalist. Now that might seem like a really strange thing to say. So this is me. I've got kind of a big background when it comes to teaching about intuition, and my life started off as being quite a well-known psychic medium, and then I had a bit of an epiphany which changed all of that, but I will come to that. So in this particular slide, I'm just giving you a bit of background so you can read that for yourself, and then that's all my big brownie points in regards to this subject. I have bigger brownie points in other ways, but in regards to this subject, those are the huge kahunas. So I describe myself as a human dynamics journalist. I'm obsessed with what makes human beings tick, how we know what we know, and how we kind of need to smarten up and stop being so scared all the time. I used to be very fearful. I turned to self-help books for answers, and I met some of my most hero authors, and we all have those, don't we? You know what I mean by heroes authors? The kind of author that makes you take your glasses off. Well, if you have to have reading glasses, I've come of that age, where you take your glasses off, you put them down, and you just go, oh, that's brilliant. Well, I used to have a radio show on LBC radio, and I managed to get to meet all of my big hero authors, some of the world's top spiritual thinkers, and I discovered something really amazing. They're all pretty much scared too. You see, at the end of the day, we're on a planet that is going around something that's on fire, held down by gravity, that has not been even proven by science. And I think there may even be an elastic band involved. We have an existential dilemma. We don't really know what life is all about. And that level of fear sometimes can lead to scarcity thinking, to making things mean things that perhaps they don't mean, to kind of pursuing purpose. And sometimes that pursuit of purpose goes in the wrong direction. And fear can lead people to becoming controllers, but even worse, to becoming controlled. And all of this, let's just get miserable for a moment, shall we? All of this has kind of been leading to the downfall of humanity. We have had 5 mass extinctions that we can record, usually by digging up dinosaur bones and such. This is the 6th of the 6th mass extinction time. And we have lost 52% of the species since 1970. Can you believe that? That's kind of really crazy, isn't it? If I'm honest, I've never really liked humanity. Sorry. You know, earth-sucking parasites that can think and create, but really can't live in harmony. But then I had that horrible sinking feeling. Oh, I am human. And I'm all right, me. And in actual fact, I know a load of people that are all right and that are brilliant and that care. And so I got to talking to some of my more environmentally conscious and spiritual friends. And we all agreed on one thing, that we absolutely love the earth and we love life. But I asked them another question. Did they believe that life loved them and that the earth loved them? And pretty much they said no. They didn't believe that the earth loved them back. You know, going back to what I was thinking before about the earth-sucking parasites. So I thought about this and I thought, now herein lies a problem, because really life does love us. So I potted off and I went and sat in nature. And you know that feeling of calm and awe that you get when you're sitting in nature? It isn't just you loving nature, that's the world loving you back. But you can only really get to understand that when you start to listen to the world itself, the earth itself, intuitively. So despite all of our foibles, we are loved and life loves us. So this is why I wanted to teach you about evolutionary intuition. And this is why I've called it evolutionary intuition, because we have to evolve. And I actually believe that that intuition is an exceptional way for us to shift consciousness. Because when you can discern your fear from somebody else's fear, when you can discern your fear from how somebody is trying to control you by manipulating your fear, when you can actually hear and see and be aware of what you know, and you do know, there's a book about that. Anyway, but when you can actually discern what you know to be true, well, then you can't be controlled by others. And that to me is real freedom. So when you use your intuition to be able to hear yourself intuitively, not just others, and this is what we always do with intuition, we're always interested in hearing other people intuitively, but we forget to hear ourselves intuitively. We forget to hear nature intuitively. And when you can interact with all of that on a highly intuitive level, you can really find love. I believe intuition is the key to the shift of consciousness that is needed by humanity to change the trajectory of doom that we are currently living in. That's why I wrote this book that's on the screen, and that was my epiphany in writing this particular book. It's been published by Hay House. It's called You Do Know, Learning to Act on Intuition Instantly, as you know, because it says so on the screen. And also, I have created a course called Evolutionary Intuition, of course, because that's webinars are usually telling you about something. So it's going to be telling you about the course Evolutionary Intuition, but I will come to that. This is a class, not just a webinar. I'm going to teach you how to use skills that you can apply to your life tonight, tomorrow, whenever you want. Because you are human, and I've remembered that I love you. And it's time to start trusting what you know to be true and acting upon it. So, okay, I've come to this really big kind of thing about, listening to the earth and saving the entire planet, like to create something a little bit controversial. But it actually starts with the small stuff. It starts with you being empowered that what you believe to be true is true, not what you're told, not because it was posted on Facebook, not because you read it in a book, but because it resonates with you and you can feel it and you know when it's right. And that your egotistical mind, or what's known as the chimp brain or the monkey mind, or any other way you want to call it, but your egoic mind, that you can check in with yourself intuitively and see whether or not this is some past trigger that is affecting your life now, or whether or not there is actually something for you to be genuinely concerned about. Because our gut-led intuition has always been about survival of the species. Our heart-led intuition has always been about progressing yourself into becoming amazing. And that's the level of intuition that I want to be able to teach you. But it does start with 4 very unique and interesting intuitive systems. So what makes this teaching different from anything else that you're going to hear out there? Well, I've extracted a little bit of the woo-woo, even though I'm now mentioning your third eye and satellite dishes. I have extracted the woo-woo and put in a bit of brain. In fact, to be honest with you, I have put in 3 brains to be exact. So let us talk about all of these things and let me break it all down to you so that you can actually look at different aspects and facets of intuition and we can take it from there. So let us start with your mental intuition. Now, what's really interesting about mental intuition is we're looking mostly at the brain that's inside of your head, but actually you've got a brain in your gut and also a brain in your heart, as well as the brain in your head. And I'm not just talking kind of like, metaphorically about that brain. You literally have a brain in your gut. So it has a vagus nerve that takes information up to the brain in your head. And also the heart has communication devices to be able to take that information up into your head. Now, I'm kind of see myself, as you can see, I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm an avid brain enthusiast. I definitely think that everyone should have one. And sometimes I get the impression that people don't necessarily use theirs. So when we're looking at mental intuition, the things that we're actually looking at is the difference between the right and the left hemisphere. Now, like I say, I'm not a neuroscientist, and I do understand that the brain is extremely complex. So a lot of what I'm going to say, you can take as being slightly metaphorical, because I'm going to put it in a way that makes it simple to understand, mainly because that's how I understand it to be. So if you were to look at the right hemisphere of your brain, the right hemisphere of the brain is the creative side. It doesn't have a language center, so it doesn't understand things in words. So in a way, it's a full holistic brain. So if the right hemisphere of the brain was to be looking at a shoe, it could see the shoelace, it could see the sole, it could see the leather, it could see the parts of the shoe. It couldn't see the parts of the shoe, but it could see the whole of the shoe, but it couldn't describe the shoe. Now, the left hemisphere of the brain, sorry if I've confused you, but the left hemisphere of the brain sees everything in parts. So it can see the shoelace, the leather, the colour, the sole. So the left hemisphere is a compartmentalised thinker. It sees things in logic and reason, and the right hemisphere sees things as a whole. And what this basically means to your intuition is a right hemisphere skill. Now, quite often we see the right hemisphere as being a predominant brain for females, for women. And this is because of testosterone. So testosterone comes into little boys at a very, very young baby age. And it means that little baby boys don't gaze into their mother's eyes like little baby girls do. So little baby girls have more of a chemical called oxytocin, and they will gaze more into their mother's eyes, whereas little boys will look around the room. So little boys will want to more experiment with things, whereas little girls take subtle cues off their surroundings and their parents, which is why little girls are seen as being more intuitive, or girls or females, like we call it women's intuition. But it's why women are seen as being more intuitive than guys. But actually, I think that this is really changing. I've met some incredibly highly intuitive men. And I think that this is because we're starting with a shift of consciousness to actually be using the right hemisphere of our brain more when we're looking at entrepreneurial ideas, when we're looking at like holistic thinking, when we're looking to see things and problem solve as a whole, instead of using the logic mind to pick something apart and work it out. So I know that this is an age-old sexist joke about women liking cars, as in, oh, what's the car? It was blue. Whereas men might look at a car and want to know if it's liquid cooled or air cooled, or you can tell I really know about cars, or what engine size it's got, how fast it goes, what the specs are of it. And it's really about whether or not you're a left brain thinker or a right brain thinker. Now, this, of course, has very little to do with being a man or a woman. It's more about the levels of chemical of the testosterone, which is activating the left hemisphere, as opposed to the oxytocin, which is activating the right hemisphere of the brain. So you can be trained to use more of your right hemisphere than your left. But the brain that you took to school was a left hemisphere brain. So we've been rewarded for all of our left hemisphere thinking. Now, in my case, I'm dyslexic, and people who are dyslexic tend to be right hemisphere thinkers. We tend to be quite flamboyant. We like beautiful colours. And in fact, there was a TV show in the UK called Test the Nation, and it was presented by a woman called Anne Robinson, who is known in the UK as being particularly scathing. She is a wonderful Mickey taker. And in Test the Nation, they are testing particular job descriptions. So there was, on one side of the room, car mechanics. Just popped into my head, I wonder why. On one side of the room, car mechanics, doctors, dustbin men and women, post people. And then there was a bank of a bank of psychics. And if you looked at the psychics, they were all like wearing crushed velvet, predominantly purple, and all just looking extremely colourful. But when asked the logic questions that were required to win the quiz, meh. In fact, Anne Robinson couldn't even think of anything funny to say after a while. The camera would pan to her and she'd just have to raise an eyebrow. Because really, the people who see themselves as being highly intuitive are quite often dyslexic. Because dyslexic people have right hemisphere skills. So I'm dyslexic, and my dyslexia is brilliant for right hemisphere skills, seeing things as a whole, but not the compartmentalized thinking that perhaps is seen with people who have amazing left hemisphere skills. So if you think about it, on one hand, you might have people that are autistic and are brilliant with remembering numbers, maths, names, places. I'm useless with names, bit rubbish at maths. But that level of compartmentalized thinking, it always makes me think of the film Rain Man, where Tom Cruise goes to take the I think he's autistic, or anyway, forgive me if I've got that wrong, to a casino because he can remember numbers and things, and he's really great at dates. So really, in a sense, we've got a whole pendulum spectrum and not one brain fits all. We've got a whole pendulum spectrum of people who are particularly right hemisphere or left hemisphere thinkers. And it just so happens that the more right hemisphere you are in thinking about things, then the more you have that level of intuitive insight, because you're looking at things as a whole. Now, I want to say that I asked for a couple of questions ahead of time. And I'm going to answer a couple of those questions. I will come to your questions that are on, that I'm hoping that you're posting at the moment on the chat. But I won't come to them right now because it just means that I keep kind of focused. And I've added the questions that I got earlier into the sections. So this question comes from Sylvie. And Sylvie asked, and I know that you're there, Sylvie, so hi. She said, what's the difference between intuition and clairvoyance, if there is one? Well, the right hemisphere of the brain sees things in pictures. So it doesn't see things in parts. So in actual fact, one of the greatest tools that you've got for seeing things in pictures is what is described as clairvoyance. Now, clairvoyance simply means clear seeing, which I'm sure that you understand because you're French, and that's where the word comes from. So clear seeing is just basically what you see. Now, if we were to kind of like see things clairvoyantly, it might be, people have talked about having remote viewing. And remote viewing isn't really that you step forward your mind's eye or your third eye into somebody else's house and you describe what their house looks like. Quite often with that level of seeing and that level of clairvoyance, you might see your grandmother's sofa. And you might describe, say, in this room there is a blue sofa. Now, you're not seeing the blue sofa that is in that room, but you are seeing a blue sofa that you have got from your own mind vaults. So intuition always works with your own mind vaults. It doesn't project something into something that you can't see. Clairvoyance has also been misunderstood as a future prediction idea, that you are seeing into the future through clairvoyance. I personally believe in a thing called false memory syndrome, which is that when somebody tells you, oh, I knew that this was going to happen, I predicted it, they are misremembering the memory of the prediction itself. So in other words, if I was to say to somebody, oh, you're going to go to Australia, okay, and then they go on holiday, they might say, oh, you told me I was going on holiday. They've missed something in the translation. Now, when I describe myself as a psychic, this used to happen all the time, that people were misunderstanding. I didn't even do future predictions. People say, you predicted this. I'd be like, I really didn't. Go back and listen to the recording. And they go, oh, I misremembered. So there's a lot of things that can happen in false memory syndrome. So to me, your imagination is a seat of your intuition. And it is in your imagination that your clairvoyance is seen. And of course, this creates a problem because people say, well, how do I know the difference between my imagination and what I'm seeing intuitively? And what I would say to you is actually, don't ever underestimate how absolutely brilliant your imagination is. I mean, if you look around the room, every single thing that you can see that is man-made started in somebody's imagination. And so the imagination can actually be a chalkboard for your intuition. And also it's kind of like the same cinema screen that clairvoyance uses as well. So when we see flashes or pictures or images, sometimes they are linked to our past. And then therefore we discount them because we just think it's some kind of memory flashback coming from the vaults of your mind. But pay attention. And one of the ways to pay attention is to become curious. Your intuition works best with three very important things. Love, you have to care about it, like emotionally care. You have to have a purpose, so purpose is hugely important. And also, oh, hang on, I've forgotten it now. I'm so far into my right hemisphere. Love, purpose, oh, I missed it, the most important one, curiosity. The more curious you become about something, the more your intuition can respond. So in other words, if you see something clairvoyantly and you become curious about it, it kind of opens. So a vision will open and lead to another vision. You become curious about that vision, it leads to another vision. You become curious about that vision, it leads to another vision, until you get to become the person who becomes the joiner of dots. You put all of these things together and suddenly have the realization that you were looking for. Okay. Sylvie asked another question. Can we train for intuition? Is there something that we can do that would make it more present? Those three things. So, curiosity, love, and purpose. Now, here's a little exercise for you. Before you leave the house, but set a purpose for your day. So it could be, today I'm going to see how much of value I am in the world. Or today, the purpose of the day is to make me feel alive. Or the purpose of today is to make me see that I've got more money than I thought I had. That'll be a nice purpose. So whatever it is, you can set a purpose. So as long as you set yourself a purpose, then become curious as to where that might come from and where you're going to see it, and then follow the intuitive signposts. They will come, because most of us don't ask. And then we kind of look up to the skies and go, why don't I know where this is coming from? Why aren't you sending me signals? You create your own signals. You create your own purpose. Another question that she's asked is, I often catch myself while getting a dump load of intuition, but then it seems silly and I forget all about the intuition I've had, only to look back and realise that I should have known. Yeah, that's a thing. And that's why I called my book Learning to Act on Intuition Instantly. If you don't act upon it, it disappears. It's a little bit like a creative idea. If you don't act upon a creative idea, it's like you suddenly lose it and it disappears. So sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with just the most incredibly brilliant idea, and then I think, oh, can't be bothered to get up and get a pen and piece of paper. I can't be bothered. I'll remember this tomorrow. I roll over, I go to sleep. I can't remember it in the morning. Can't remember it at all. So if you don't act on your intuition instantly, quite often it leaves you. It's a little bit like a muse. I remember this saying that it was Michael Jackson said. He said, unless I write down the song instantly, God will take it away and give it to Prince. Yeah, your intuitive insights work a little bit like that. I will come back to some of your other questions, Sylvie, and a couple of more questions that came through as well, one from Shirley too, as we go through. So hopefully that makes sense about your mental intuition. Moving on. This one's a real hot topic. Emotional intuition, your empathy. Empathy is huge. And one of the things that I hear quite a lot from people is, I can't discern the difference between my emotions and somebody else's. That I feel dragged around by life, that I get exhausted, that I take on board too many things of other people's feelings, and I don't know how to separate. And this level of emotional intuition also comes up, that sometimes people feel exhausted. Now, I'll tell you what's going on with your emotional intuition. Now, you have a solar plexus chakra, which is kind of like where your rib cage splits. Well, sounds painful. It's yellow and it stands out from the body, and it can give feelings of deja vu. And what it does is it frisks environments to see whether or not they're safe, and it also frisks people. Now, it once had a really important job, and its job pretty much was to save you from being eaten alive by saber-toothed cats or any other kind of predator. And nowadays, as human beings, are predators to ourselves. So what we try and do is we frisk people. If you believe that the world is an unsafe place, if you believe that people are out to get you, did you know, this is interesting, that the crime rate has actually dropped? It's actually now harder than it ever has been to be killed at the hands of another human being. More than any other time in human history, we are less likely to be killed by the hands of another human being. Crime rates have dropped and the fear of crime has gone up. And that's because we're being inundated with an a whole load of stuff that activates the gut brain. So what happens is the solar plexus is looking for scary things so that you can create a fight or flight response so that you can survive. It's a survival mechanism. And what it does is it frisks people, situations, things like that, brown envelopes, emails, phone calls, whatever it is that scares you. And it takes that information into the sacral chakra, which is the root of your emotions. And that interprets it into the gut brain really quickly, really fast. And your gut brain will have a response, which will be run away or stand and fight. But what's needed is blood in the arms and legs for either one of your decisions to run away or stand and fight. So that's the fight or flight response. And so, well, there's actually 4 Fs, but we won't go into all of those. So what happens is you kind of feel like, I need to run away. I've got to get away from all of this. It's really very scary. It's not good. And the blood is taken from protecting you in terms of the immune system. It's also taken away from your digestive system, which if you're somebody that suffers a lot with IBS, if you're somebody that has any autoimmune stuff going on, it could be that you've got a very active solar plexus. Now, there's no point chakra balancing, changing your chakras, messing with your chakras. I don't really believe in any of that. I believe your chakras are reacting to your psychology. Change your beliefs, and then you actually get to change the reactions that you're having through, oh, my heart chakra's closed. Yeah, well, there's probably a really good psychological reason as to why your chakras are reacting in the way that you are responding to the world. So what I would say is to find a way of doing some work, and obviously you can book an appointment with me and I'll take that further, because that's not really what we're talking about here. But if that is you, at least I can actually help you fix that, because it is a fixable thing. So the gut brain then gives you this intuitive runaway response. But of course, it could be that you're being triggered by something that has happened to you in the past. So, for example, if you had a maths teacher that used to really enjoy humiliating you, and then you meet somebody who looks like your maths teacher, your gut brain is going to go, what? Oh, we've been here before. This is really scary. Now, you really only have a theta brainwave up until about the age of 7. And with the theta brainwave, it's pretty much like hypnosis. You're a sponge, you're picking up loads of things. So your world, in a way, is being orchestrated by old limiting beliefs. So it could be that your mother had a fear of spiders. So you being a sponge, you have a fear of spiders, whereas actually you don't really have a fear of spiders. You're having a reaction that's been created by the gut brain, which is creating an intuitive response that makes you have a physical reaction to spiders. That makes sense? So this is what's really important about evolutionary intuition that I've talked about in my book, and I also talk about on the course. If you're having a gut reaction to something and you're feeling like you need to run away from it, because a gut reaction never really makes you want to move towards something or to do something. If you become curious, then you actually engage your heart reaction to things. Okay, so we'll get more into the heart reaction in a moment when we talk about somatic intuition. So your empathy really is the fact that you are picking up other people's emotions. There is something to do with your programming that is making your solar plexus chakra pick up other people's emotions as if they are your own. This might be because you have an internal programming that says, I need to fix people, I need to take care of people. There's also a really interesting experiment that I actually learned from a guy called Billy Roberts. If you were to cut open an apple and you were to take the apple pips and let them dry a couple of days or so, and then put those apple pips on white paper, and then cut open a completely fresh apple, take out those apple pips and put them about an inch apart from the dying apple pips or the drying out apple pips on the white paper, then relax your eyes in the middle space, that inch apart between the 2 apple pips. You would start to see a white circle around the healthy apple pips, like a life force, like chi energy. But then as you gaze with the relaxed eyes, you will see a white line suddenly go to the apple pips that are drying out. So I have a belief that we are biologically programmed to share our life force, literally chi, with something or somebody that is ill or sick or needs it. So if you surround yourself by moany, miserable, kind of lifeless people, you will find yourself kind of getting drained. But that's not because there's some kind of energy vampire, but simply because we are biologically designed to do that. And your intention to stop doing that will mean that you won't become drained by them. So when I've gone to visit people in hospital, I've actually found that, you know, you have that kind of like real sort of like draining feeling. So a friend of mine who just recently died of cancer, I was doing some kind of like, you know, messing around with hands-on healing, and literally I could feel like the chemo, the pain in my liver. I could feel all of that stuff. In the end, I couldn't work with her like that because I couldn't block it, because my intention was to give healing. So unfortunately, I just couldn't separate between receiving what she needed in terms of understanding it intuitively and being able to kind of like give it. I was kind of knocking myself out, if you see what I mean. Obviously, if I did some kind of healing course, I would probably learn that you tap into universal energy and you bring it through you and all of that kind of stuff. But quite frankly, I was just having a go. So I hope that that kind of makes a little bit of sense there. Okay, so let's move on. Somatic intuition. Hope you like the picture. Think he's rather cute myself. All right, laughing at my own jokes. That's really worrying. So somatic intuition is absolutely fascinating because your body is like a storehouse for all of these things that you know. So if you've ever had a massage and suddenly you have these wave of insights, or when you go to a yoga class and you suddenly know things, or when you're dancing and you suddenly have this kind of like body awareness, there's something that was trapped inside of your system that suddenly comes out to your attention. That's somatic intuition. It's an amazing thing. Now, I had a moment of somatic intuition about 3 o'clock in the morning. My doorbell went. Now, normally you kind of ignore that, but to be honest, as a woman, I kind of, you know, I'm curious as to, is this another woman? Is this somebody in trouble? So I went up to the door and kind of tried to keep myself out of the way, but look through the glass, and I could see the outline of a woman on her own. So I went to go and open the door because it was a natural reaction. Somebody's in trouble. They're ringing my doorbell 3 o'clock in the morning and there's a woman behind the glass. Something's happened here. I went to open the door and it was literally like my body threw me back from the door. And not being stupid, I decided not to open the door. So I spoke through the door and I said, "Are you okay? What do you need?" And she said, "Oh, well, my electric meter has run out of money. Can you give me some money for my electric meter?" All right. I don't know much about electric meters, but when I've had one, they don't run out overnight. You know, they kind of have this sort of storagey thing so that you kind of need to pay them in the morning, but they definitely don't run out overnight. So I knew that. And also something about this just did not sit right with me. So I went to my purse and I pushed £1 through the letterbox. She tutted at me and went, "Oh my God, only £1. And then as she walked away from the door, 2 guys that were either side of the door that I hadn't seen walked away with her. So, apart from scary stuff, somatic intuition, when you feel something in your body and you know it's true, like my grandmother used to say, "I feel it in my water." And of course, that's all to do with the gut brain. So your muscles in your body can actually store information that you haven't been able to listen to because you've been too busy being in your left hemisphere of the brain. So I would suggest to you that if you ever want an intuitive insight, dance. It's one of the most fabulous things to do in the world. Dance, move your body, have a wiggle, get out of your chair, and see how those insights just come up. Or if you don't fancy that, just have a deep tissue massage. Go and have a massage and just see what kind of comes up. For lots of people, and I studied a thing called the Rosen method, which is an intuitive form of body touch. And we found that there could be a held muscle, say, for example, a muscle on the back. And I remember having one client and he had this really held muscle that was kind of above his heart. And he said, "Yeah, I get pain in my neck and, you know, my shoulder's really tight." And I just put my hand on the muscle and I became curious, as I was telling you to do earlier. And this is part of the Rosen method. I became curious and I started to ask it, "What do you need to tell me? What's going on with you?" And because it was over his heart, I suddenly saw, as we were talking about clairvoyant visions, I suddenly saw this vision of a breakup. And I felt in my body, which is obviously, you know, empathy, heartache, broken heart. And I said, how's your heart? And he went quiet. And then all I heard was sniff, 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 sniff. And as he cried, that muscle let out a couple of pulses, like jumps, like kind of, you know, when you wake yourself up because you kick? Well, the muscle did that. And slowly the muscle in his back dissolved and was no longer standing up and tight. Now, I didn't do anything. There was no manipulation. All I did was, through a couple of words, I brought to his attention what his body was trying to tell him. And his body had created, you know, a strong muscle on his back to protect his heart. Isn't that curious? So when we talk about things to do with the body, we really, like, so much gets stored. And I actually believe that the patterns and messages that you ignore in your external world, and we do have patterns and messages all the time, but quite often we ignore them. We kind of go, oh, that's just a silly idea, I'm just being ridiculous. But the patterns that we ignore in our external world manifest in our body if we do not pay attention. So once they've manifested in our body, then it can be, you know, something as simple as stiff muscles or all the rest of it, but maybe something a little bit more sinister. So listening to your body is not just something that you do as a kind of like, oh, what's it got to tell me about whether or not I should take this job, that job, trust this person, trust that person. But it actually teaches you about your own psychology and about your fear and whether or not you're living in balance with your authentic self, or whether or not you're out of balance with your authentic self. And by finding out, in a sense, I do like Louise Hay's book, which actually goes through things and ailments and stuff and links them up directly. This is called You Can Heal Your Life. And it links them up directly with things that are kind of going on with you and that are going on in the body. And that stuff's really valuable. So yes, once you can understand and read your body, then, well, let's face it, that's priceless. Forgive me, just taking a tissue. I have a slight cold. Talking about listening to the body. Yeah, what's that trying to tell me then, eh? Okay, moving on swiftly. Spiritual intuition. Oh, yes. So, okay, let's not all get a bit like heebie-jeebie with it. I did promise you that the woo-woo would almost be completely eradicated, and it kind of has been. So, so when we look at spiritual intuition, you know, there's people who don't feel like they're completely here. They don't really feel like they totally belonged. Like, actually, if you told them, you know, you were dropped here after a space alien invasion and you are the offspring of the planet Zog, they would go, oh, thank God for that. I just thought I didn't fit in. And I think a lot of these people actually end up moving to Glastonbury. Just saying. You know, or I'm kind of like thinking of other places like Byron Bay in Australia, or I've forgotten the name of it, Sedona. Anyway, you know, it's the kind of place where people who are too sensitive to the world. Now, what we're looking here at altered states of consciousness, and it makes me think of a wonderful saying that I got from Doctor Who. And Doctor Who says, I don't know why, I only know who. Now, he's actually talking about the assistants that he travels with them through his, you know, time traveling journeys. But have you ever met somebody and you think, I don't know why I've met you, but I know I needed to meet you? And sometimes I've had this with people in the street, and I'm starting to sound a little bit Celestine prophecy here, but there's a sense of, I don't know why I needed to meet this person, but now I have met them. There is some journey that we are needing to take together. And I don't know where we're going, but I know I need to be with them. And to me, that is your spiritual intuition speaking. And if you believe in past lives, it could be because you've met that person on a past life. It could be because they vibrate to a similar resonance that you're vibrating to, a similar sound frequency that can only be felt on a spiritual level. And when we're looking at spirituality, we're also including in that the layers and levels of your aura, your observer. So not the thoughts in your head, but your capacity to step back from the thoughts, because you are the thinker of your thoughts, but to step even beyond the thinker of your thoughts and to really be able to connect with the observer. So your spiritual intuition is really altered states of consciousness. It's where we go to when we meditate. It's where the whirling dervishes bring themselves into a place of genius. Genius is where those downloads happen, where you say something so amazing and you think, oh, where the hell did that come from? As you find it coming out of your voice. It's just that thing where you're writing something and you feel like it is writing you instead of you are writing it. It is the levels and awakening of consciousness that is available to all of us when we stop coming outward and journey inward. And this is what I would call, we know a lot about Joseph Campbell's work when he talks about the hero's journey. Well, to me, the heroine's journey is the spiritual intuition. The heroine's journey is the journey inward for the wisdom that we carry within ourselves. And then it is that download of that wisdom that comes from different levels of consciousness. I believe that we have access to multiple levels of consciousness that we just don't use because, quite frankly, we just think, I'm making it up. I have no evidence for that. It's whimsical. What am I talking about? But actually, this is when miracles are born. This is where you have an insight so amazing, it feels like a miracle. It feels like somebody has gifted you such a nugget of wisdom that your life will never be the same again. That's spiritual intuition. It's probably one of the hardest things in the world to describe. It's that point where you lay back and you're looking at the sky and the sky suddenly dissolves in a sense. And you realize that you're completely at one with it, that you're at one with the world and that you're at one with everyone and at one with everything. And the world disappears from you being separate and you feel yourself being at one with everything. And the only times I've ever felt like that, it's because my intuition has taken me there. It's been because my curiosity, my intuition has taken me there. And then, of course, from that magical, brilliant moment, you suddenly wake up and go, oh, what am I going to have for tea? And you're back in the room. But that spiritual awakening, that spiritual intuition is something that is so beautiful because it's like a download from an altered state of reality. And I think that that's why I wanted to call the course Evolutionary Intuition, because from that place, we can solve the problems that we have created in our own lives and in the world at large. We can find intuitive answers to the biggest questions because we have access to something that is far beyond our own consciousness. Oh, that's so bloody exciting. Oh, yes, it is. Sorry, get very excited, very, very excited. Okay, good. So I'm going to tell you about this course and then I'm going to come to your questions. And I'm only going to talk about this course really briefly because, like I said, this is a class and I have given you a really great introduction. And in fact, this introduction is actually going to become an introduction to all of the different parts of the course. So, evolutionary intuition, the 4 intuitive systems. This is what we've been talking about, those 4 intuitive systems. And I've actually created an online course that will take you very deeply into these 4 intuitive systems so that you can activate them in your own life, so that you can have an enhanced way of being able to go, boom, I get it. Obviously, off the back of this, I've given you some great insights. So, no big deal, because obviously through the back of all of this, then that's going to be your curiosity, your love, and your purpose. But just to take it that little bit further, now I'm going to tell you what the course is made up of. It's made up of 4 different parts. So the freebies you're going to get is obviously the 4 different parts are what we've talked about: somatic intuition, emotional intuition, physical intuition, and mental intuition. Physical, anyway, you know what I mean. You're going to get a free copy of my book, You Do Know: Learning to Act on Intuition Instantly. I'm going to send it to you wherever you are in the world. That's just for you. It's a free copy. You can give it away. Christmas is coming. So if you've already got a copy, please do pass it on to somebody else. There's 4 ebooks that are part of the course: The Evolution of Spirit, The Listening Mind, The Listening Body, and The Listening Emotions. That's all part of the course too. You are also going to get connected so you can have a chat about all of this stuff on a Facebook group that's going to be a closed group. It's only going to be open to the people who are learning evolutionary intuition, people who want to learn it in their own lives, and people who want to change the world by using it. So it's, we want to be able to encourage you through that Facebook group. But also, we're going to have a monthly group call that's just going to take place every month. So even after you have finished this course, any questions that come up as you are implementing the course in your life, then we're going to have those group calls, so that every single month I'm going to make myself available to you for your questions. Now, these questions aren't going to be, oh, I've got a decision about whether or not I should buy this house or that house. I'd rather you say to me, I need to know which house I should choose. What do I need to do to be able to access the part of my intuition? Because every time I think about buying this house, I just get scared that I'm going to make the wrong decision and I'm going to end up with a place that's not going to be good, and then the kids won't get to this school and blah, blah, blah. Great. I will teach you how to access it yourself. So this isn't a way of getting a consultation, but it's a way of actually accessing that level of intuition by yourself. Now, the next thing I have to tell you is that for the first people to sign up to the course, you're going to get me for free. Yes, I'm going to come round to your house. I'm going to live with you for 6 months. Okay, no, I'm not going to do that. If you are one of the first 20 people to join the course, that would be awesome. You are going to get, do you know what? It says half an hour of my time over the phone or Skype. Yeah. No, I'm going to give you an hour of my time. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an hour of my time. And you can use it as a one-to-one class or a consultation. It's up to you. I'm going to send you a booking code, and you've got 6 months to use it. So even if you're like, well, I don't really need to speak to you right now, you've got 6 months to be able to use that booking code. So that's pretty darn cool, isn't it? I think that's cool. So anyway, that's all of that stuff. Now, over to you. I hope that you've been asking questions. If you have, that's absolutely brilliant. I am going to, let me just check out how to do this. I need to send you a link to the course so that you can go and sign up for it right now, if that is what you choose to do. But let us get over as well. So I'm going to put that in the chat, and I'm going to have a look at some of the questions that you've been sending in. So there we are. That's that bit there. Good. So you can just click on that link, and that will take you, and I'm going to just see who the first 20 people are that actually sign up, and you will get me for an hour free. And let's face it, 20 people, that's not bad. That's 20 hours of my life. I'm happy to give that away. That's hang on, that's 2 days. What was I thinking? So I'm going to start with the end of the questions that were sent to me in advance. So going back to Sylvia's question, she said that she often has an intuition, but it's like a bunch of sensations in the body. Well, that's what we're talking about with somatic intuition. And then she says, it's as if my brain puts words on it. Yeah, that's right. That will happen because your left hemisphere of the brain will try and interpret it. The thing to do is to try and stay with the not knowing of the knowing. So in other words, you know, but you don't know. So you know it's kind of there, but you don't know. So you kind of have to kind of go with not putting words on it and sitting tight with it, becoming curious about it, and then it will open up before your brain starts to engage and talks you out of it. You were describing that goosebump feeling. And that goosebump feeling, when people talk about the hairs on the back of your neck, it's a physical sensation. And those sensations are basically just saying, pay attention, wake up, pay attention. So that stuff's really exciting as well. Good. Now, similar question that Sylvie has answered and also Shirley has asked. So let's look at those. So how do I know if an idea is an intuition? Because she has a very fertile imagination. Well, we were talking about actually using the imagination as a chalkboard. So if you have something that you think is your imagination, become curious. Now, a similar question from Shirley. She said, how do I know if something is a reaction to something or I'm being intuitive? She constantly feels as if she's going to crash when she's driving. How can you tell if this is an intuitive insight or an old program that is running that the world isn't safe? Literally, when you're behind the wheel of the car, put your hand on your heart, obviously by trying to do that safely. Put your hand on your heart and basically become curious. And then you will either feel like a surge of calm or not. And I tend to find, and I've saved my own life a few times, I'll suddenly find my foot comes off the accelerator, hovers over the brake. And people have said to me, why are you slowing down? And then right ahead, before the brake lights have even come on, everybody else ahead of me is slowing down, and I've improved my stopping distance. Kind of cool, huh? Everyone can do that. Everybody has that opportunity. So just so you know, that's all there. Okay, so I think you've got the link there, Marie. It's underneath, so it should be. Sometimes there's a delay. If you guys haven't been able to find the link, it just basically says Becky Walsh, and it's got the link, so you can click on there, and that's going to take you over to the course. So I should also tell you, because that would be polite, the one-to-one session with me is to the value of £65. So that's a phone session. So that's to the value of £65, just while I've got this on my head. And also the course itself in dollars, US dollars, it's $300 but in British pounds, it's £195. Obviously, when you take off the free book that you're getting, the 4 free ebooks that you're getting, and an hour of my time, as well as the course content itself, I'm regretting all of that. Moving on. Great, Shirley. Thank you for thanking me. Right, I'm going to move my way through these questions. I'm so sorry if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. Having said earlier, I'm dyslexic. That can be a thing. So click through fine. Thanks. That's good. Okay. And Marie's already signed up. Fantastic. I have received intuitive, so that Christina, I hope I got that right. I've received intuitive messages and I haven't acted upon some of them, but they don't disappear. My intuition keeps coming back. That's brilliant. You're very lucky if yours don't disappear, because quite often if you don't act on them, they kind of go, but some of the bigger ones don't disappear. So my desire to move to San Francisco, just the intuitive insight to move to San Francisco got louder. So some of the big life ones actually get louder. So that's really quite interesting. You've also asked another question, which is, what would be a practical exercise for someone who's a beginner to connect with their intuition? Do you know, I cannot stress enough that becoming curious and purpose and love, those 3 elements are so important, so important. So I would say, even as a beginner, that's exactly where you need to begin. The rest of it, you will actually find that you will have a preference with one of your 4 intuitive systems. So it might be that you're extremely somatic, with a little bit of mental intuition. And then suddenly your physical intuition, your somatic intuition disappears completely. And you have a high level of empathy, and you're incredible with your mental intuition, until eventually you become amazing at all of them. But the curiosity, love and purpose is a really great guide there. Joy, yep. Jack Russell terrorist. Oh, yes. I quite like the fact she barks, but there you go. Love that you were listening to Michael Jackson before the seminar and I brought up Michael Jackson. That's hilarious. So what do you do in head versus heart battle, Yasmin? In the head versus heart battle, literally, if you want something physical to do, put your hand on your heart and become curious. So if your head is going wah, 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 when you put your hand on your heart, you connect your heart brain, and by becoming curious, you'll know whether or not it's just your fear talking, or whether or not it's actually something like engaging to be positive for you, or whether or not your heart makes you feel a bit sick, and then you know that it's a negative thing. So there's a test that you can do that will help you develop this. If you were to put, say, a fizzy drink like Coke in one water bottle and put water in another water bottle, then put them in bags so you can't tell the difference between the two. Stand up completely straight, put one of the bottles over your heart, because now you don't know which is which. If you tip forward, that means your body likes it. If you tip back, it means your body doesn't like it. So practicing it with Coke and water, because your body doesn't tend to like Coke and it loves water, you'll actually start to work out how your somatic intuition works with your body. And then I've done things like put names on a piece of paper. So on the odd occasion that I have a choice between 2 dates, I might put the name of one man in a piece of paper, put it on my heart, and see if my body moves forward or back from it. And I like to mix it up. I'll put a blank piece of paper, one person's name, another person's name. This is a really great way of, if you've got a choice between 2 jobs or 2 houses or 2, it's just a really great way of seeing what your somatic intuition is telling you. Hopefully that made a bit of sense. If not, ask me to explain that again. What will open the artistic brain? Curiosity will open the artistic brain. I know I keep coming back to that, but also seeing things in pictures. And there's a little exercise that you can kind of like do. If you look online for right hemisphere tests, there's one of a ballerina going round in a circle. But there's other things that you can do, which is kind of like turning your leg in one direction, turning your arm in another direction. There's lots of different kind of things that you can find online that says opens the right hemisphere of your brain. But to me, looking at artwork, which is how I believe tarot cards work. So when you're looking at tarot cards, it literally opens the right hemisphere of the brain, which is why tarot is used as a way of being able to discern what's actually going on in your life. So anything that looks like pictures, try and avoid words. That will help. Oh, I'm so sorry, you're going to leave me. That's okay, Julie. She's probably already gone, but that's all right. This is all being recorded, so you can catch this up later if anybody needs to go. Okay, good. So I think I've got to the bottom, so I now need to go back up to the top and see what else we've said. Okay, so they do a wine water stall to raise funds for school. I'm going to intuit that next time. Yeah, that's going to be kind of cool. Yeah, by the way, if anyone can actually turn, water into wine, I'll be on your webinar. That sounds cool. So how does being more intuitive affect how you operate in life? Okay, so I can only speak personally, but I used to be very scared. I was scared of stuff, and I was scared of people not liking me. I was scared of making bad decisions. I used to have to ask people 20 odd times if I should get a haircut and what they thought of my hair. Now, bearing in mind I was in my early 20s, I think that that's probably true of most people when they're young. I've always been highly intuitive. I was just ignoring it. When I started to actually make decisions without thinking, I found that I started having a sense like I was living at altitude, like my life was moving really fast and things were in flow. It just flowed. Like when people talk about manifestation, I was easy to manifest things. Things were coming to me instead of me going out and getting them. So I would say that the intuitive effect that it has, it means that you don't end up in stupid relationships. It means that you are much more able to trust yourself when it comes to decision making. I'm just going to put that there. It means that you're much more able to trust yourself when it comes to decision making. It means that you're not asking 100 people to help you. It's just powerful. And I certainly believe, and even though I alluded to it at the top of the class, I'm going to put it much more strongly now. I do believe that we are controlled by fear. I do believe that if you want to oppress a nation of people, make them feel scared, and then tell them that you're going to be the one that fixes them. This is also called poking the pain, and it is done in marketing as well, where you connect with somebody's problem, you poke the pain of that problem, you tell them how awful it is, and then you make them think about how brilliant their life would be without that problem, and then you tell them that you can sell them the thing that will resolve their problem. I find it exhausting and boring, and when I hear it, it makes me feel sick. Like, not that I'm being judgmental, but I can tell when somebody is doing something from an authentic heart, and when somebody is doing something just simply because they want to make money and they really don't give a stuff about you. And I think when you are able to discern your intuition that way, you're never going to be sold crap you don't need. You're never going to be buying makeup because somebody's telling you you're ugly. You're never going to be told that, work hard, blah, 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 don't enjoy yourself. You are going to live in freedom. So I've gone on a bit because I'm quite passionate about that, obviously. So it's a hugely important aspect of what it is to be human, I believe, and it's underestimated. Okay, nag over. Want to remove fear from 7 to 8-year-olds, working on anything. So Leslie's asking, work on any tips to help them get out of their heads. Do you know, it's such a shame as well, because up to the age of 7, they really need to be in their bodies. Like, for example, to actually sit down and learn is some of the most difficult things for children up to the age of 7, especially because they've got this theta brainwave. Now, I don't know that much myself, having not really worked with kids that age, but I just think that for anyone in life, being told, I trust you, I believe in you, repeatedly, I trust you. I believe in you. I know you can do this. You're amazing. Wow, look what you just did. How awesome are you? How awesome is this? This is incredible. You are incredible. And then when they do something that makes a mistake or they screw something up, you just say, you screwed up. Never mind. And you kind of moved on from it. So I just think the more you can tell somebody that you believe in them, the better it is. So a couple more from Leslie there. So Leslie wondering, money problems. Oh yeah. Matching money to your intuitive gift and becoming a dominant gift now. And I know moving forward. Sorry, I've read that so badly. Wondering how to have my gift. My life had money problems. How can I match money to my intuitive gift? Okay. So if the money has purpose, then your intuition will work with it. So rather than thinking about money as a concept, try and change money to freedom. So I want to have more freedom in my life. And of course, you know, money equals freedom, doesn't it? It equals holidays, it equals less stress, it equals a roof over your head, it equals freedom. So if you were to start to become curious about how can I have more freedom in my life, then the money issue would follow. The problem with money is it's such a loaded word. There's so many negative connotations that we can have about money, because money then starts to be about, am I of value? You know, am I of value to get paid? Am I of value? So the value issue comes up. The money doesn't grow on trees issue comes up. The scarcity issue comes up. Any problems that your parents had with money. I was actually listening to Lord Sugar this afternoon and on the radio, and he said something that really sparked me. I thought this was very interesting. He said that he came from the East End of London. His family never had any money, and that he and his brothers and sisters basically learned to work really hard to get by, and that if you wanted anything in life, you had to work for it. And he felt that that was a really good discipline to have learned. And he said, I even feel guilty for sitting here having this interview with you because I'm not at my desk and I'm not working. Wow. So look at that in relationship. That's a limiting belief. If I am not at my desk and I am not working, I am not of value. And that's from Lord Sugar. So that's a very interesting thing. And so money can be such a huge trigger, and you don't really know what the triggers are. So think about money in terms of freedom, and then you let your intuitive insight lead you to freedom, thus leading you to money. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, could you repeat the use of body movement as a gauge for answers? So this is kind of like, that's from Love. So that's kind of like a little bit like using kinesiology in a sense. Kinesiology works in a similar way. So I mentioned putting kind of like a fizzy drink or glass of wine, fizzy drink or water over the heart. Your body will move forward or back. You need to be really up straight to be able to do it. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, in fact, I'm going to just see if I can actually find this just really, really quickly whilst I'm doing all of this. I talk about it on my YouTube channel. So I'm just in a Google search for my own stuff because my YouTube channel has got so big now. I absolutely, there it is. I absolutely never know what the heck I'm doing with it. Let's pause that so it doesn't suddenly start playing at you. So I'm going to just put this link to Somatic Intuition. What is your body really telling you? This is a YouTube clip. I mean, obviously, you know, a lot more of this is going to be on the course itself. So what I've just taught you there, it gets bigger and more beautiful and better on the course itself. But let me just put this in the comments box. Any if you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd be chuffed to death too. So that's just there. It's just gone into the comments box at the top. I think I've misspelled Somatic Intuition, but I was making it really quick. So that's for you, Love. You can go and find that, and that will actually show you how to do it. So I've actually made a film on that too. I make a lot of films. I mean, you'll just go onto the YouTube channel, you'll be like, oh my God, does this woman ever stop? Okay, you have to go now, Elaine. Thank you so much. Yes, you can listen to the rest of it on the catch up. That's good. Love has made another comment. I've become bulimic. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And eating disorders have been affecting for 5 years now. And a car accident, and that was obviously going to be traumatic. And so we know bulimia is all about trying to get control. I mean, I believe that is true. So of course, if you had a car accident, then it's your physical body and your gut brain trying to find control in your life over having one thing that you can control, which is obviously your nutritional and your food intake. Also became intuitive, yet now it moved, and yet now understand and heal and move forward. So it's a tricky one. You and I are probably going to need like a good sort of hour-long session to kind of like look at that, love. I think that can't be just whitewashed over in the time that I've really got to be able to answer that, because that's a big deal. You're looking at something that is, you know, shaping the quality of your life, and you are important and you are valuable. So you want to make sure that you've actually got this control thing under order. But of course it makes sense that it's dietary, because the gut brain basically goes, okay, so what is it that I can control? What can I do? You know, having endured a car accident, there's one thing that I do which is called matrix re-imprinting using EFT, and it's really very powerful work, and it takes you back to a point where trauma has taken place. I'm going to send you a link to read more about it, and allows you to undo the limiting belief that trauma has represented in your life. So, so, love, I'm going to send that directly to you on a kind of reply. Oh, I'm pressing new things here. There you go. So that's been sent directly, I think, underneath. Yes. To love. I'm going to just put it in there to everybody so that you can have a read of that as well, if that resonated with you and you thought, oh my God, that sounds ace. So that's there too. So hopefully that's helpful. Have a little look at that, because what you need is a technique to undo this limiting belief that is causing you to react out of fear, which is causing you to have a control issue around food. So, you know, and you might say it's not a control issue, but usually it stems back to a limiting belief that the world is not a safe place, hence caused by a car accident. So then you're trying to control what you can control in your world. So that's pretty much what it's about. So undo the belief, undo the system, undo the control, live a happy, normal life. That's the plan. Live a happy, normal life. We love that. Okay, Michelle, what do you do when you know what your intuition and heart is telling you? What you do, however, is hard to act upon due to dependence. Oh, I remember watching Caroline Miss talk about this, and she said, she was talking about like a man cheating, and she basically said, you know he's done this, and you get his stuff and you put it on the lawn and you stand with the kids and you say, Daddy is moving out. And he comes and he collects his shit off the lawn and he gets out of your life. And I was like, whoa, oh, God, blimey. That's a bit hard. Anyway, I'm not sure if your circumstances are exactly the same. The problem is quite often our intuition is telling you something, but your intuition is not making a judgment on what you should do about it. So your intuition is telling you something, but is your intuition actually giving you the action point? Intuition doesn't give you an action point. It tells you the circumstance, the truth of, the authenticity of a circumstance. But you have to discern the action point. So to me, when I hear an intuition, I try and act upon it instantly before my discernment says, oh, that's a bit scary though, isn't it? That's a bit scary. So when it comes to actually taking care of other people, they become your priority. And then you have to act, in a sense, for the time that they have been gifted to you to love in this world. You have to act with their best interests, with as much authenticity as you can. Because I tell you, the one thing that I really believe is don't teach kids to lie by living a fake life. Because all that happens is kids are not stupid, they're highly intuitive. You know, so I'm assuming it's kids when you say dependence, it could be aging relatives, but I really think that if you can live as an authentic life as you possibly can, and it isn't always possible, but all of the, I'm doing it for the kids, so I'm lying to the kid, you know, whatever it is tricky. But again, Michelle, this probably needs you and I to have a proper consultation about this and put the worlds to rights and figure out together what you can do using my intuition and yours. Because obviously my intuition can, again, just say, all right, so here, if you turn left, here's a whole load of things that have the potential. You know, if you turn right, here's all of these things that have a potential. So I think it's really important to be able to kind of, you know, nail everything down, put it into pros and cons. And this is what I do when I'm working one-to-one with people, is I use my intuition to be able to give them choices. I always think that a block is a holding point while you're waiting for more information. And the information can come from your own intuition, or it can come from coming and seeing somebody like me, because then I can help use my intuition to unblock you from a holding point. If you're in London, by the way, I'm in London this weekend. I've got 2 appointments available face to face, just in case anyone wanted one. Just thought I'd tell you. Teresa, I used body intelligence and matrix to recover from ME. Well done. Fibromyalgia and other health problems. It's not just that I am well now. My whole life has been transformed, and it's amazing. Oh, it really is, isn't it? It's incredible how the mind can create a limiting belief that actually manifests itself in our physical form. And that's why, I mean, I was interviewing Carl Dawson, who came up with EFT matrix reimprinting for the Hay House World Summit. And to be quite honest with you, like I said at the top of the call, I've interviewed quite a lot of people for my show, my ex show on LBC, also for Hay House Radio, and I'm now freelancing for the BBC. And to be honest, you know, yeah, some people are amazing, but also some people just ain't walking their talk. And I met Carl, and having met quite a lot of healers that, you know, some of them just had what I would call a bit of a Jesus complex. Carl was just like, not about himself at all. And I've said this to him, your about me page says nothing about you. Not about himself at all. And I have to say, he invited me to come and train in Matrix, and I've just had such a skepticism. This is why I kind of call myself a human dynamics journalist. I'm probably one of the most skeptical woo-woo lovers that you could possibly meet. I was just incredibly impressed. And then when I did the training, I was still a little bit placebo. I think this might be a placebo. I think it's just placebo, until I had an accident on the road and I accidentally killed an animal. I've never created roadkill before, and I'm not going to tell you what it was because you'll have the vision in your head, so I'm not going to tell you. And I was so distraught and so upset. And I started to go from, it was unavoidable, well, it was, you know, to you are despicable, call yourself intuitive, how can you have hit that? Why did you do that? You should have known, because it turned around and kind of came back across it cleared and turned around and came back. You know, you're not intuitive, you're a murderer, rah, rah, rah. God, crazy monkey brain. And then I thought, hang on a minute, you're learning this modality, for heaven's sake. So I started tapping, and literally within 1 round of tapping, I went, it was inevitable. There was nothing I could have done. So and then I went, yeah, that's not a placebo, because I would never have come. No, that's not a placebo. Anyway, so that's that. Brilliant. Thank you, Michelle. I would love to meet you too. So that's really lovely. And you're about to, moving countries and kids, and yeah, it's a lot, you know. Yeah, when I moved to San Francisco, I'm back in Bristol now. I'm back in Bristol, but I moved to San Francisco with the dog on an intuitive calling to move to San Francisco. I had to put the dog on an aeroplane. The guilt, oh my goodness, the guilt, like just this awful sense of, am I doing the right thing? But my intuition was like, yep. No other way around it. And there was no way I was leaving her behind. So I know that, and also incredibly hard to explain to family members, why are you moving to San Francisco? Got an intuitive impulse. Why are you going to sell your house? You're going to fall off the property ladder and then you'll end up in a pile of doom with no pension. Can't tell you. Just got to do it. Now, when I teach people about taking huge steps like this, I always say, cover your backside, because intuition doesn't tell you, you know, that your life is going to be perfect and there will be no problems from this moment forth, because it's not a spiritual bypass. It does not bypass pain or turmoil or anything like that. Sometimes it takes you into the heart of your fear so that you become inoculated to become a braver and bigger and stronger and more awesome person. So your intuition will actually take you to what you need, not just what you want. So to me, that is a miracle, because to be brought into being the most awesome person that you are in the world, that's a miracle. It's still a miracle. So all of these things are not kind of like to be you know, sort of tossed aside as well. Unless my intuition is going to give me the lottery numbers, I'm not playing. It's not to be tossed aside. It's still really powerful in lots of ways. Good. Any more questions? I'm going to chuck that back into your direction. So see if there's anything else that you want to ask me. So whilst I'm waiting for those questions to come in, I'm just going to tell you a bit about the stuff that I do. I have a great online course called Evolutionary Intuition, which is this one. I have another one for authors. If you have ever wanted to write a book but not clear on your idea, I have a course to help you get clear on your book idea. I also have a course called The One Big Calling, Know Your Mission and Do It. So if you've got that feeling that you want to do something amazing in the world, but you don't quite know what it is yet, we've been getting some really amazing results on that course. I'm chuffed to death with it. It's absolutely brilliant. Obviously, all my free stuff and huge amounts of training is on my YouTube channel, which you now have a link to. I'm also going to be creating something quite exciting for YouTube. I created a TV show called Becky's Life Hacks. I'm going to create another 6-part TV show as well. And I'm currently in the middle of making a brand new course for free. I'm going to be giving this course away completely. And the course is going to be called Ideas Sex. Are you getting enough? So it's all about those ideas and those brainwaves that you get where you go, oh my God, oh yes, that's genius. So that's why I've called the course Idea Sex, how to get more of those fantastic light bulb moments. And I'm going to be giving that course away for free. So keep on my mailing list. I guess the best thing to do is to join my mailing list, which you've probably already accidentally done by signing up to the webinar, because that's what we do with webinars. Sylvie's asked another question. So Sylvie, intuition is like a passage, brackets, hard and okay to get towards authenticity. It kind of is. It's like your intuition is a wonderful way at removing layers of ego BS, which is another word for belief system. You thought I was going to say bullshit, didn't you? So it's a really great way of removing all of that stuff and just bringing yourself into your present moment and as to who you are authentically, because you become an exceptional psychologist to your own inner workings when you're using your intuition. It's a really great way of hearing the crap you're telling yourself. It's great. And then when you realize it's crap, you can kind of start undoing those negative beliefs that we all seem to have about ourselves. Great. Oh, thanks for liking my humour, Leslie. That's really good. And the light bulb logo. Thank you. I'm quite pleased with that one as well. And Sylvie, thank you for saying. Sylvie's on the One Big Calling, and she's doing it at the moment, and she says it's extraordinary. So I'm really pleased about that. Evolutionary intuition. Hopefully you will find it extraordinary as well. I haven't used films in evolutionary intuition. I'm probably going to cut this film up and put it to be part of the course, but it's mainly audio based, ebook based. So you can do it in your own time. That's what's really good about it. So when you've signed up, you can do it whenever you like. Well, I think we're coming to the end, because I think we've come to the end of questions. Just really remains for me to say I'm just incredibly grateful that you've come on the course. I don't know if you'd ever heard of me before or how you found me. I'm very glad that you did. And, it's my absolute pleasure to do this work, because let's face it, I did start off not liking humans, and then I realised that I was one, and kind of thought, well, if I'm going to share this planet with everybody else, then I might as well help everybody else to see the world as being a beautiful, magical place full of miracles, and to see everybody else in exactly the same light. Because even the people who are getting on your bloody nerves are the greatest teachers, and we can turn around this shift of consciousness. We can fix this. I know that we can. And evolutionary intuition is all about the shift of consciousness that is going to change our own lives, which actually change us all as humans. I actually believe that we are all connected by one consciousness, and the more happy and loving we become, the more we have a knock-on effect with our own energy that spreads like a virus. And that makes me very bloody happy indeed. Leslie, you found me through the Hay House World Summit. That's lovely. I was interviewing one year and then I got interviewed the next year. It was all very exciting. And Shirley, she's doing the One Big Calling and it's brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Shirley. That's really lovely. Sylvia found me through Hay House too. I tell you what, a wonderful platform to be on with Hay House. I was very, very lucky girl. Great webinar. Thank you. Toodle Pip. Thank you, Joy. That's really fab. Someone's got a finger, one request. Let's view the request. Sharon, you've put your finger up. I don't know. Well, I have not tried this before, but Sharon, as we're coming to the end, let's try it. So I am going to, oh no, you went down. Oh, I was going to invite you as a speaker, but that's okay. That's all right. It's all right. But yes, if you want to speak, I can put you through to speak. That's okay. But your finger went down. That's okay. Brilliant. I think we are done. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to come offline now. This has been recorded, so you will get a copy of it so that you can go back over it again and make any notes if you want to. I really hope that you can join me on the course. It would be fantastic to have you there. Remember, the first 20 people to respond will get some time with me. Oh, hang on. View, Sharon, yes, I'm going to release your... Oh no, it went off again. This happened yesterday, so I'm really sorry, Sharon. And this is why I didn't kind of say that you could speak to me directly, because the fingery requesty thing didn't work yesterday. It kept locking my poor friend out every time she was a guest speaker for the One Big Calling. We were doing an in-person part of the course, and it kept locking her out. So I'm really sorry, Sharon, but you can always ask me something directly at becky@beckywalsh.com. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Thank you, Maddie. Catch you again. Thank you. Bye.